Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and welcome back to the Ultimate Era! And also welcome back to the end of the Ultimate Galactus trilogy, Ultimate Extinction. If you haven't seen the first two videos, Ultimate Nightmare and Ultimate Secret, check them out on my channel now to catch up. Released in 2006, written by Warren Ellis, with art by Brandon Peterson, this is Ultimate Extinction. The book begins a few weeks after the previous story, Ultimate Secret. At the Triskelion, Sam Wilson hangs out in a meeting room and laments everything he's learned from the Vision and wishes that he was wrong about his estimation for the arrival of Gah Lak Tus. Carol Danvers and Mar-Vell then arrive in the room, and they're followed by the Fantastic Four, too. And yes, at the end of last episode, I noted that the previous book, Ultimate Secret, must have had to take place before Ultimate Fantastic Four Volume 3 due to the costumes, because that was the last time that the UFF, as I like to call them, had their non-branded, non-logoized, because again, that's before they went public, that's before they had, like, the superhero identity. But, as I keep mentioning, this epic 3-volume event took 2 years to come out. Published from August 2004 to May 2006. The 3 series were titled Ultimate Nightmare, October 2004 to February 2005, Ultimate Secret, May to December 2005, and Ultimate Extinction, March to July 2006. So I think it's safe to say that we can ignore the logos. Because while this came out at a time where, yes, the Fantastic Four looked like that, the story was not meant to happen at that time. It was clearly, from the first 2 volumes of this, meant to be something that's like happening at that moment in time before the FF become heroes. Johnny's obsessed with the idea of becoming a superhero in Ultimate Secret. He hasn't done that yet, so just ignore it. Just pretend it's not there. Nick Fury then shows up and asks if they're all ready, because they're officially on the clock and do not have much time left. Sam presents the data he salvaged from Vision's alien warning systems, and Mar-Vell points out the elements that he and Sam combined into it from the Kree database, and Reed and Sue present their findings. A display of a 3D animatic of New York City, which will simulate a possible attack by Gah Lak Tus. Reed begins that Gah Lak Tus is estimated to be 100 miles across, meaning that its field of gravity will be the first thing to affect the Earth, leading to immediate dismantling and possible destruction of structures. According to the Vision's data, the first line of attack is a psychic broadcast to drive people mad. Reed notes that hundreds of worlds in Vision's database were driven insane with fear, and then he notes how genius it is, because doing this means it's impossible to coordinate any response to Gah Lak Tus and its presence, meaning that the planet is left defenseless as its people are driven insane from cosmic rays shot down from space. He then continues that according to his estimations, 50,000 will be dead in Manhattan within the first hour as riots, violence, etc. commence. Within 3 to 20 hours, the effect will cover the whole world. Then something hits the 3D model of Earth. Something massive, with 2 large protruding horns. Reed tells Fury that there's not much detail on what it looks like, but they know that these things drop all over the planet to release a flesh-eating virus that blankets massive areas. Reed estimates it'll take maybe a day for every living thing on the planet to be dead. And by the time Gah Lak Tus finally arrives, it will have already built the tools necessary to drain the planet of its cosmic energies, recharge, then move on, leaving behind a barren world that is totally uninhabitable. Cut to downtown Manhattan. Detective Misty Knight arrives at her office to find it totally empty, except for a bald guy in a suit. He introduces himself and explains that he's come to hire Misty to track down his wife, who has been influenced and taken by a cult run by a man named Paul Maitreya. Don't worry. This does have something to do with the story. She gives him a rate, and that she has a guarantee confirming of his wife's location within 48 hours. The man agrees to pay her for her services, and later she calls a contact she has from her days on the police force and asks for information on one Paul Maitreya. She gets what she needs, and then gets her equipment and heads out. The next night, Misty hangs around an apartment across the street from the address she got. She finally spots some activity. bunch of people wearing all white. She makes sure her camera's recording, gets her photography camera ready, and records her observations for her case notes. And then she watches for a little while longer as the people just kind of amble around, make small talk, until a figure in a golden robe appears. Misty figures it's Paul Maitreya, based on how the people react to him. And then they turn the lights down, and Paul disrobes to reveal he's actually a man with a completely chrome body and giant metallic wings. The silver entity expands its arms and its wings unfold before the cult. And then a rain of bullets launch through the window of their meeting. Misty is in disbelief as the shooter is right next door to her the whole time. A bald woman in green spots Misty and opens fire. Misty ducks inside, draws her handgun, and heads into the hall. She spots the woman heading into the stairwell and gives chase. Misty fires and hits the rifle out of the bald woman's hand, and then they have a fist fight down the stairs. Misty holds the bald woman with the dragon tat on her arm at gunpoint, and you know what? I think I should just come up with something better to call this woman instead of just the bald woman or whatever. Maybe. Here's something I just came up with off the top of my head. She has like a dragon tattoo on her arm, and her head is round like the moon. So I'm thinking we call her Moon Dragon. Misty holds Moon Dragon at gunpoint, demanding that she lie down on the ground with her hands on her head, and then Moon Dragon launches a blade and it embeds itself into Misty's robotic Stark Tech arm. Some things never change across the multiverse. Moon Dragon quickly sweeps Misty's legs and lunges away down the stairs, and by the time Misty's back on her feet, Moon Dragon is gone. So Misty sits down, sighs heavily, and notes how nice and productive her day was until it got weird. A few days later, Nick Fury demands that Reed stays at the Triskelion instead of constantly coming and going from here and the Baxter Building. Reed gets annoyed because the Baxter Building is so close and that he works best alone. Fury tells him to can it because it's a team effort. And Reed mutters that it's not his team. Then Fury tells him he better get fucking used to it because it's his team now, because Fury says so, goddammit. Reed snaps and says that he used to be a meek little nerd that hid inside all day. But now, he's one of the smartest people on Earth and dating the hottest girl in New York. And it's the big old jock that peaked in high school who's the one begging him for help. Fury acquiesces and says that S.H.I.E.L.D. will station a chopper on the Baxter Building 24/7, fueled and ready for when Fury calls him. And he better have his scrawny ass not a second late. A S.H.I.E.L.D. agent enters and alerts Fury that one of their satellites captured something, and he needs to check it out immediately. Everybody races down the hall to Incident Room 7, and the team inside brings up an image of Jupiter, and Reed notes something obscuring a section on the Great Red Spot. The scientist zooms in on the imagery, and in there they discover that Gah Lak Tus isn't a single entity. It is a collection of millions of individual units acting under a swarm mind. Different from a hive mind. I did learn that making this script. It's interesting. I recommend looking it up. Neat information. And it spans 100,000 miles in length, and it's only a week away from Earth. Not long after, on a balcony at the Triskelion, Fury meets with Captain America, who just returned from a mission and got briefed on the situation. He asks if Fury believes in God. Steve says that in his old world, everyone did. They knew that God loved them and protected them. And then one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s specialists commented that if there was a God, it's sick that he would make something like Gah Lak Tus that kills planets full of his children. Steve realized something. He realized that the evil of Gah Lak Tus is too big to fight. He walks away and says that yesterday he was a super soldier, but today he doesn't even know if there's a god. Elsewhere, Misty heads to her old department where she meets Captain Jean DeWolf. So that sets this as a very specific time as well. She gets a sketch artist to whip up an image of Moon Dragon, and Jean jokes that she was attacked by the only woman in NYC with no distinguishing features. The sketch artist has an idea and asks if Misty can draw the dragon tattoo she saw, and Misty gives it a go. The artist, Barry, then runs her drawing through the system and finds one match. A woman named Heather Douglas, who's been dead for 20 years. Later in the afternoon, Charles Xavier is reluctantly brought in by Fury in an attempt to make contact with Gah Lak Tus. Xavier tells him he can't, and would need technological assistance to push his mind that far. He suspects that no psychic on Earth can actually do it, and it would take far too long and be far too expensive to upgrade his Cerebro program. And Fury tells him that he can get every man, woman, and child on Earth outfitted in golden underwear within 24 hours. Fury tells him to head off and consult with his tech boys immediately, get an airlift out to Westchester, and bring in anyone Xavier needs. The next morning, Misty heads into her office and is horrified when Mr. Paul Maitreya is hiding in the corner dressed like the big man. Was that intentional? He calmly tells her that he wasn't ready for outsiders to see him, and Misty tries to be calm and tough, telling Paul that he can leave now, and because she still doesn't know who he is, she hasn't seen his face, he can just go. And she calmly reaches for her gun as Paul continues, totally ignoring anything she said, and tells her that there is a certain timetable and a schedule that he has to keep to. And Misty springs into action. Paul points a finger and blasts cosmic energy and explodes her office. Elsewhere at the Triskelion Eatery, Sam Wilson and Steve sit and finish lunch as they discuss the current events and how much their views of the world and the universe itself have changed. Fury joins them just before a red alert sounds for him. Fury calms in and learns about a bomb that went off in downtown NYC and continuous gunfire. Cap and Sam stand up and Steve tells them that this is something he can actually handle, and Sam tells Steve that he's going with him. Back in the city, Misty's having a gunfight with a chrome man in a trench coat. Unfortunately, the bullets just hit and bounce off. Misty crawls through the rubble of the adjoining office and grabs the fire extinguisher as Paul comes for her. She sprays him, blinds him, then smashes him out of a window and onto a sidewalk. I guess the wings are for show? Then Misty launches the fire extinguisher after him, shoots it, causes an explosion, and she falls back in exhaustion, but not before witnessing Paul stand up unscathed, unleashing his cosmic powers into the sky. And in the sky above, Captain America and the Falcon leap out of a S.H.I.E.L.D. chopper. Sam wonders if the Chrome guy's a mutant. Cap tells him they're about to find out. Then he slams himself S.H.I.E.L.D. first into Paul's face, caving him into the asphalt. Cap flips up and off as Sam conducts a strafing run with his submachine guns. Paul is riddled with bullets as cosmic energy ruptures from his mouth, and he hits Sam's wing, crashing him into a car. Meanwhile, Misty watches from her office building. Cap spots her, tells her she's under arrest by S.H.I.E.L.D., and she yells back that they'll have to explain to Tony Stark why they arrested an ex-cop hero that he built a new arm for. Falcon picks himself up and realizes that Silver Paul has vanished. And across town at the Baxter Building, Reed and Sue examine a hologram of the End Zone, which is just another point that this is before Ultimate Volume 3, even though by the time it fully released, readers had already witnessed the FF fight Annihilus 2 years prior. I just want to know what took this so long to release. Reed goes on to explain that stacked universes, noting that the ones below their own are older and— Wait, he references Nihil? What? How? What? But, what? What are you talking about? The first two books establish very distinctly that it's happening at the time, you know, around 2004-ish, before the FF went to the End Zone. And the last one is saying that, oh, we don't have much time left because it's taking place within a year. And then that happens? Fuck that. I said it was before Volume 3. It's before Volume 3. That's stupid. You're stupid. Fuck that. Forget I mentioned Nihil in this. They haven't met Nihil yet. Because that makes no goddamn sense. Just because this book came out 2 years after it doesn't mean that the events of it are taking place 2 years. Anyway, Reed continues that the higher you go, the younger the universes are. Theoretically, of course, because no one knows for sure, because he's never met an alien from another dimension that explicitly told him. Reed then reveals that he has had an idea on how to stop Galactus for a bit. But it makes him uneasy when he thinks about it, and he says he'd be handing Nick Fury the ultimate weapon. A few days later, as Gah Lak Tus grows closer, strange graffiti featuring silver wings and the message, Silver Future, begins to appear around the world. S.H.I.E.L.D. continue their construction on Xavier's Super Cerebro device to reach Gah Lak Tus, and Fury meets Xavier once again, noting that they're really pushing this to the last minute. Tony heads past them and into a conference room where Misty Knight sits across from Mar-Vell, Sam Wilson, and Cap. Tony tells her that she looks dreadful, and then explains that she saved people from a bombing in Manhattan a few years ago and lost her arm, and since he had been developing a prototype prosthetic, he donated the first one to her. But in order to do so, she had to be thoroughly vetted by S.H.I.E.L.D. officials to even get it, meaning that she's trustworthy and clean. And Tony excuses himself along with Mar-Vell to assist Xavier's psychic transmission. In the machine, Xavier gets prepared as Mar-Vell notes how insane this is. Fury tells him to shut up as they and Jean watch on. The S.H.I.E.L.D. scientists give Xavier the go-ahead, and he reaches out into the Cerebro array. Then they begin amplifying his powers, and he reaches out past the asteroid belt, through space itself, and into the Gah Lak Tus swarm. And he begins to make a connection. And in unison, the millions of Gah Lak Tus units emit a magenta light, the most unnatural light, and Xavier's eyes glow the same, and he whispers, "Contamination." Then he's rocked back in the chair as energy ripples through his body. Jean cries out to break the contact and shut the machine down as the entire structure ripples through. Jean rips Xavier out of his connection, and he falls haplessly forward, muttering that it hates them so much, and he's never felt a feeling like this before. A S.H.I.E.L.D. tech races in and exclaims that Gah Lak Tus has launched something at Earth when it broke contact with Xavier, and it's directly targeting the Triskelion. Fury orders Tony to launch Iron Man, and Tony tells him he can't stop anything moving that fast. Then Mar-Vell suits up in a far less gross way than before, and several minutes later he and Tony are blasting off into the sky and discover that the projectile has already broken into the atmosphere. They soar through the air and discover it's a silver chrome egg thing, not a missile as they initially suspected. And they try to stop it when something bulges and bubbles out of the chrome egg, and the egg begins to flatten as a humanoid figure forms from the chrome itself. Mar-Vell blasts the surfing Silverman to no avail. It redirects its attack to Mar-Vell, unleashes cosmic energy, snaps his arm, and fucking prepares to rip out his throat with 4 sets of teeth? Tony uses all the power that he can to rip its head back as the Silverman releases more electrical blasts, causing all 3 to plummet into the ocean as recovery teams head en route. Fury orders the Triskelion to be locked down and get all choppers in the air immediately, and a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent tells him that Reed is calling. Fury picks up, and Reed tells him that they need to get S.H.I.E.L.D. engineers to the old site in Nevada where they first tested the End Zone and the FF got their powers, and that he needs as much adamantium as possible, because he has found a way to kill Gah Lak Tus. The next day, Jean and Charles hang out in the Super Cerebro. Xavier tells her how fascinating it was to experience such complete contempt and revulsion from the swarm. He notes that it genuinely hates organic life. And Jean notes that she saw on the news this morning that people are shaving their heads, painting themselves silver, and committing suicide around the world. Xavier wonders if they could possibly rebuild the machine, and Jean says that she hopes so because it might just be their best weapon. Then she comes up with an idea involving the Vision. A few days later, S.H.I.E.L.D. have found Moondragon and now hold her in custody. Sam notes that she's actually a clone of the original Heather Douglas, and somehow, through sealed soundproof doors and walls, she informs them that she is a priestess. The group decide to head in and find out what's up. Moondragon explains, oh, here we go. She explains that she doesn't like to be called a clone, instead a perfection of her dead mother. She was born into and raised by something called the Enclave, as were all of her brothers and sisters. She continues that they are the perfect children of Earth, trained to meet the perfect emissary, Gah Lak Tus, and that the Enclave will not allow S.H.I.E.L.D. to usurp their position in doing so. Fury asks what the hell their connection is with the Silvermen, and Moondragon tells him that they have none, noting that the Silvermen have taught that suicide is the only way to respond to the great entity's arrival. Sam Wilson rolls his eyes and realizes that the Silvermen must be some kind of remote weapons that are sent ahead, almost like heralds, to soften the planet that Gah Lak Tus is heading to, because if massive swaths of the planet are already subjugated, it makes it far easier to do all that crazy shit Reed told him about and get right to the energy draining segment. Fury quietly notes that he wants one of those silver guys. Cap suggests that they go after Silver Paul in Manhattan, and orders Fury to get him a strike team. A few hours later, Cap, Mar-Vell, and a S.H.I.E.L.D. strike team bash down the door of Silver Paul's cult. They deploy a flashbang, and Silver Paul lunges at Cap, who blocks him with his shield and unleashes a super taser into the base of his ear. Cap drives him out of the building and holds the Silverman in place as they plummet to the ground. They destroy the road, forming a crater, and Cap removes himself as Mar-Vell cuts Silver Paul's legs off. Silver Paul shoots his electricity, which Cap deflects back into him, and Silver Paul electrocutes himself due to the broken water pipes as Mar-Vell severs his perfect chrome arms. But unfortunately, as night falls in New York, massive riots break out across the world. And Fury asks who wants to help him interrogate a quadriplegic alien messiah. And somewhere deep within the base, Jean and Xavier meet the new and improved and sexy Vision. Vision refuses to help them fight Gah Lak Tus because it's against its programming. Jean tells Vision that it's a constantly evolving, self-healing machine, and it doesn't matter what it was designed for. But Vision informs her that it was designed purely to record and pass on the message, the vision of what is to come. Jean retorts that Vision is being provided an opportunity to record something entirely new to itself, and that's all the convincing that Vision needs. Elsewhere, Reed is now at the old Baxter Foundation test site, freaking out over the lack of adamantium that they have available and how fucking hard it is to work with. Reed exclaims that he needs to contact Fury for more men and aid construction of this massive device. The next morning at the Triskelion, Fury notices a general lack of employees. An agent hands him new intel that Gah Lak Tus is way ahead of their estimated time of arrival, and then another fucking red alert goes off because gravity is getting affected. Fury gets contacted by Xavier to begin diverting the power to the upgraded Cerebro array, and Fury looks out of the window as he orders it done, and sees Gah Lak Tus blotting out the sun. Xavier begins reaching out and says that Gah Lak Tus has unimaginable hate, yet it fears them at the same time, and it kills organic life the way a human would a spider out of pure revulsion. Jean tells him that he really needs to hit the gas on all of this, cause she just saw what outside looks like. He asks if she's ready. She says no, but it's not like she has a choice. Then Xavier accesses the Vision systems that they added to Cerebro and accesses the human psychic wavelength and prepares to give Gah Lak Tus a taste of its own medicine. Meanwhile, Nevada, Sue, and Reed and the S.H.I.E.L.D. teams evacuate the area. Xavier and Jean both reach out to the entire human race, warning them of what is coming, explaining that Gah Lak Tus is terrified of them, and with their thoughts, their dreams, their love, ideas, fantasies, ambitions, they can fight back. They can use their humanity and their lives and the fact that they are living things with hopes and dreams as the ultimate defense. Their very thoughts are the bullets and Cerebro is the gun. And as Gah Lak Tus breaks through into the atmosphere and begins surrounding the planet, it begins unleashing its sickly magenta energies. And across the world, the Silvermen lead their followers to suicide. The Gah Lak Tus assaults Cerebro and the two X-Men, and Xavier pulls a Randy Quaid and asks if the scary aliens remember him. Meanwhile, Reed accesses a newborn universe and prepares to launch a nuclear missile during the Big Bang to create enough energy to destroy Gah Lak Tus. But it's also going to destroy that newborn universe and anything that could have possibly come from it. As Reed launches the missile, Xavier and the minds of the world assault Gah Lak Tus, causing the machines to convulse and explode for reasons that can barely be explained to the human mind. The rocket enters the gateway as Reed anxiously awaits the Big Bang. And it takes a little bit. Then a massive beam of energy explodes from the gate, firing straight into the sky, striking the Gah Lak Tus ring that is around Earth. Fury is alerted that the Nevada gun has been fired and has destroyed 20% of Gah Lak Tus. And in Cerebro Plus, Jean and Charles fall unconscious. In Nevada, Reed and Sue's chopper crashes from the blast wave. In New York, a Silverman reverts back to his egg form in disbelief and simply out of existence. And around the world, Gah Lak Tus begins moving away from the Earth. Fury is dumbfounded that it actually fucking worked. And Sue, Reed, and their pilot watch as the Gah Lak Tus drones begin drifting away from Earth and further into space. A month later, in a meeting room, Sam repeats in disbelief that he can't believe that they scared Gah Lak Tus clean out of their solar system. They're still monitoring the fucking thing, and it's still going. Mar-Vell asks how Xavier's doing, and Fury notes that he and the girl are being dismissed from S.H.I.E.L.D. Hospital this morning, and then Mar-Vell asks what they do now, because Gah Lak Tus will simply leave this solar system to go find another world. Fury assures him that Sam's prepping the Vision with records of the whole thing, and schematics and details on how to build the new universe atom gun. Now that is a great name for a band. Fury continues that the Vision will soon be launched back into space to continue its journey. But it'll have a little message. Human beings can kick the hell out of anything. And Fury jokes that after all that God talk, he wonders if, when he does reach the pearly gates, God will put up a fight. The end. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Ultimate Galactus or Gah Lak Tus? Fuck me, man. I am actually having a great time. I am enjoying the Ultimate Marvel Universe. I like Ultimate Gah Lak Tus. I like the weird sci-fi crazy shit that's going on. I love this. This is my bread and butter. It's so fucking intense. Like, what the fuck? There's just an inexplicable giant swarm of space locusts that goes planet to planet because it hates organic life. That's insane, and it's awesome, and what is happening to me? I've stared into the void, and it's stared back. I definitely think, in terms of the original kind of like heads of Ultimate Marvel, you know, the guys doing the big books, it's gotta be ranked Bendis, Ellis, Miller, right? Like how is that not everybody's ranking? If it's not your ranking, please let me know what your ranking is of the original 3 Ultimate Marvel guys. This is a long, sort of tiring, almost grueling climax to the Ultimate Gah Lak Tus trilogy, I think. But it works because it has such a build-up. Maybe not worth waiting 2 years to get to, but Ellis really makes you feel just how much time is passing, as well as how little time the people on Earth have to prepare. Although I do kind of wish that something more had been done involving Gah Lak Tus once it shows up. Like, the unexplainable drones are scary. Like, they're off-putting to look at. They are nerving. I don't, honestly, now that I think about it, I don't know what you could really do to warrant any further involvement from them. Mainly because they don't get to the part that they actually act. Like, what do they do once the draining of the energies occurs? Like, do they all link up or something? Or, like, what happens there? And then if if they shoot down the big Galactus helmet thing, then you'd have to deal with that, and you'd have to be like, oh, well, what happens, like, in those areas of the world? If, like, at that point, like, there's no turning back. Like, how do you stop that as a superhero? So I guess there's really nothing that could have been done, but at the same time, it kind of feels like something might be missing, because they kind of just circle the planet and sit there for a little bit. So, but I guess I kind of retract my complaint, because I can't think of anything better. Also, here's something I didn't think about until reading this and going through and doing the script. I am so surprised that this wasn't used as a way to do Ultimate Onslaught. Because having Xavier contaminate himself with the hatred of Ultimate Gah Lak Tus, it feels like that is the perfect way to establish Onslaught in this universe. Although I suppose he wasn't really around long enough to, do that, since he'd be dead in a few years of publications at this point in time. Here's something that I don't like, though, is that the Moondragon Enclave stuff, it's a neat idea. I don't think it ever goes anywhere else, but I just don't like it. It's stupid. It's useless. There's no point. In fact, if you haven't read this book, you may not have noticed, I cut out an entire half of the last issue, which involves hundreds of Moondragon assaulting the Triskelion during the big climax. It's just dumb. It's unnecessary. I hate it. That's probably why we don't really see anything else from Gah Lak Tus, because that's also happening. But no, it's not. You don't have to worry about that. You can just ignore it. It is nothing of consequence. It doesn't fucking matter. It's Captain America, the Ultimates, Mar-Vell, Falcon, the fucking X-Men show up to fight all of these clones that swam out to the Triskelion with machine guns. It's so stupid. Ignore it. You can totally ignore it. It didn't happen. And but if it did, and I had a quarter for every time the Triskelion has been assaulted by a legion of clones, I would have 75 cents. But that's the end of my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. As always, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey'sVideos, where you get early access to videos, all of my comics in high resolution, movie commentaries, and more. Check out my Etsy shop, blaketwild.etsy.com, for physical copies of all my comics. Free head sketches included with any purchase. And check out my podcast, the Comic Shtick Podcast, where comics are my shtick, as well as the I Need Some Disney podcast, where it's myself and my wife sitting down discussing everything Disney, from the parks to the rides to the movies to the shows, everything in between. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!